so important. I think that so many people think about their business journey, especially coaches. And coaches, we are service providers. We want to help everybody in the world achieve what they want to achieve. And then sometimes we forget about ourselves. And so the Aligned Empire is really resetting your focus. I call it the Polaris Point. The Polaris Point, that North Star of focus of your energy, your time, your efforts between your business venture, your professional venture, and your personal life, whether that's family, whether that's contribution, whether that's your philanthropy efforts, your health, right? Your wellness, all the things that go into everything that's outside of our professional world, and really compartmentalizing the goals and the intention for our professional lives and the goals and the intention for our personal lives, even beyond family, much bigger than that, even into making a
Yeah,
global impact for many people. That's their passion.
it's time to discover how to build an aligned empire, a business and life that actually works together instead of against each other. My guest today is Kasey D'Amato. She has walked multiple career paths from pharmaceutical sales to founding a global skincare brand. And what makes her wisdom so valuable is how she's mastered the art of balance. Not just work life balance, but true alignment between career ambitions, family priorities, energy management, and personal fulfillment. Kasey's mission is to impact 1 million entrepreneurs and high achievers. And her core message is going to challenge how you think about success. She believes a dream life is within reach for those who are willing to lead with intention. Now, here's what makes our conversation so different. We're going to break down empire building into 3 critical areas: self-leadership, team leadership, and industry leadership. And Kasey is going to reveal why most people get stuck focusing on just tactical business stuff while neglecting the 80% that actually determines success. You're going to discover her 3 who's framework that ensures you will never have to navigate your journey alone. Why she swears by 90-day experiments instead of massive overhauls, and her Polaris Point strategy for staying aligned with what truly matters to you. Now, whether you're just starting out or feeling overwhelmed trying to do everything yourself, this conversation will give you a roadmap for building something sustainable that honors both your ambitions and your values. So are you ready? Yeah, let's go to my interview with Kasey. Kasey D'Amato, welcome to the Star Coach Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So excited to have you. We are going to be talking about how we build an aligned empire. The reality is, all of us who are listening and just people in the world, they want to get their work into the world. They want to build an empire for many different reasons. Sometimes it's for the income, sometimes it's for the impact, sometimes it's a combination of both. I mean, there can be many different reasons that light us up to do that, but we're going to be talking about how to do that and things to think about, both in the way we're thinking about it, the things that we're doing. I'm super excited to talk to you about that. And I'm going to let everybody know what it is about Kasey that led me to want to talk to her about those topics for all of you. Before I do that, let me just take a quick moment to welcome all of you back to the Star Coach Show, knowing that we have a new show that goes live every Wednesday morning with incredible guests like Kasey. And if you like what we do, take a moment to follow us or subscribe wherever you are listening. And know that if you're listening to us but want to see us, you can do that at Star Coach Show on YouTube. So what is it about Kasey that lit me up and wanted me to have her on the show? Well, she does all these incredible things. As many of us who are coaches have come into the coaching space through other walks of life, like we're doing other things, and then somehow the winding road of life leads us into wanting to help others, with their success, to think differently. Kasey began her career in pharmaceutical sales, but then she sort of went into other careers, leading or sort of founding a global skincare brand along with many other things. But really, what lit me up about having Kasey on the show is that through all these different paths that she's walked, she's thought about balance between career, family, like energy and self care, and how she helps others balance towards their personal fulfillment. I'm like, well, who wouldn't want to have that person on the show to talk about that? And really the sort of thing that sunk it for me was her mission. Her mission is to impact 1 million entrepreneurs and high achievers through mindset strategies and tools that align business and life, demonstrating that everybody listen to this, a dream life is within reach for those willing to lead with intention. So really, Kasey, when I read what your mission was, I thought, let's put it in front of the Star Coach audience and have that be part of those 1 million entrepreneurs that you can really impact. Because don't we all want to kind of find that balance, that alignment to lead life with intention and believe that we really can reach that dream? So, with that, welcome again. Super excited to have you here. And when we're thinking about building an aligned empire, because we did our intro call, we knew that there were 400 things you could talk about. And you were like, okay, but let's talk about this aligned empire. When you hear that back, what are the first things that you want us to begin thinking about when we think about an aligned empire?
Yeah, it's so important. I think that so many people think about their business journey, especially coaches and coaches. We are service providers. We want to help everybody in the world achieve what they want to achieve. And then sometimes we forget about ourselves. And so the aligned empire is really resetting your focus. I call it the Polaris Point. The Polaris Point, that North Star of focus of your energy, your time, your efforts between your business venture, your professional venture, and your personal life, whether that's family, whether that's contribution, whether that's your philanthropy efforts, your health, right? Your wellness, all the things that go into everything that's outside of our professional world, and really compartmentalizing the goals and the intention for our professional lives and the goals and the intention for our personal lives, even beyond family, much bigger than that, even into making a
Yeah,
global impact for many people. That's their passion.
love that. So when we think about that alignment, we're sort of going to talk about three different areas. We're going to talk about our self leadership, team leadership, and then industry leadership. Because as we are, whatever that intention is, we're not in a silo somewhere where we can just sort of take care of ourselves and maybe reach out to. We are part of a global movement, really, in many, many ways. So, of those three, I don't know if you want to go from inside and out or whether we want to go big and move in. So, I'm going to throw it to you. Where do we want to start?
Oh my, there's so many different ways we can do this. Sometimes I give keynotes, or whole workshops on this concept. So the idea is that if we think about leadership and we break it into 3 or even 4 quadrants, we have that the first, I call it the business acumen, which is sort of understanding how your industry works. It's the nuts and bolts. There's marketing, there's sales, there's service delivery, there's operations, there's finance, right? All of those things. And some people think that that's everything, but it's not. That's just one piece of it. And then the self leadership, team leadership, industry leadership are the other sections that most people will neglect. They'll focus on that nuts and bolts of building their business, and they'll be thinking about those elements, the tactical, I call them the tactical tools. And there's lots of coaches that can help you with your marketing or your sales or your program delivery or your finances, right? But that's only one piece. And until you master the self development and the self leadership, team leadership, and industry leadership, you'll be frustrated and you'll start to burn out and you'll be left behind. And, most people will argue, successful people, that the self leadership quadrant is really 98%. These are not 4 equal parts, that the self leadership and the mindset and the understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it, what is the exit for it. And, that's a lot of what people miss. And it's one of my favorites, and like the 7 Habits, Stephen Covey's book, and some of it, so many of the habits books, Atomic Habits, right? Start with the end in mind. What are we building and why are we building it? Why is it important to us? And the self leadership, once we have that locked in, then we can start to build our skills around emotional intelligence. So we don't get frustrated when things don't work out. We don't feel beat down. We don't feel burnt out. And we can manifest the resilience to persevere no matter what. Because once we know that North Star, then the name of the game is accepting the fact that it's going to be a bumpy road. It is for everybody. It's a bumpy road. It's never a linear path. And we're going to embrace the ride because we know where we're going, and it's all about the journey. And once we can wrap our heads around that, all the rest of the pieces of the puzzle with team and industry leadership start to fall into place, because our mindset is the most critical, as we know. Everybody who's a coach knows that. But sometimes we forget for ourselves, and we either get caught up in the tactical part of the business, or we get frustrated by a certain element. And then we think, oh, I don't know if I'm meant to do this. But at the end of the day, if you know what your mission is, and you understand, you accept that it's going to be a road of adventure, not a linear path, and embrace that journey, because that's what it's all about. It's not about it being easy. It's about enjoying the ride.
So, one of the themes that comes out for me in that then is this clarity of our purpose, clarity of the mission. So, when you work with business owners and coaches to begin their path towards that clarity, what are some of the things that you challenge them to think about?
So the first thing, I break it down very granular. I make it very real, right? It's kind of that old saying of, if dreams were free, what would the dream be? If we could dream as big as we could with business or in life, what would it be? What would you do every day? What would you do when you wake up, right? And then challenge people a little bit, say, well, why can't we make one step to get closer to that goal now? And that's when all those limiting beliefs come out. That's when all the limiting beliefs come out, like,
Right.
oh, I'm too old to really do that. I'm too young to really do that. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time, right? All the things come out. There's something in my circumstance that is going to prohibit me. I don't have the skill set, right? So then all those limiting beliefs come out to manifest. And now we have them. They're on the table at this point. It's like a deck of cards, and the cards are now laid out. All the limiting beliefs are right in front of us. And so at that point, we start to challenge a little bit more. What if you did have that thing? What if you did have the money or the time or the skill set? Because the reality is, all of those things are possible if we're a little bit resourceful. And so then we start to peel back the onion a little bit more. Is this truly what you really want? Because one of two things will happen. Either somebody will start to get excited, like, well, if you could manifest the perfect person that understands marketing, or if you could give me somebody that would take care of all of my household chores and take my kids to and from all of their activities, so I had so much more time. And as soon as you start to play in the land of imagination where dreams are free, people will either get excited when they start dreaming about this life, or they will continue to resist. And if they continue to resist, there's usually something in the subconscious that is telling them that this is what they, quote, should want, but reality, it isn't what they actually want. And that is a really important, I think, awareness of anybody,
Mm.
whether it's a coach or anybody in their journey, to recognize, is it really what you want? Or is it what
Mhm.
you think you should want, what you're supposed to want?
Right.
But the reality is, maybe it's not what you actually want. And that's okay. That's okay. And so I teach a concept of entrepreneurism, intrapreneurism, where you partner with other people. You don't have to do it alone. You can partner with somebody and you can build something
Mhm.
alongside of somebody. You don't have to go down a path that you feel like you, quote unquote, should. You want to pursue what you feel drawn to, not what you're running away from, and then recognize those limiting beliefs. And then you can work around them, or you can have so many coaches can help you work around them, right? That's
Right.
what coaches do. And you could start to build this life one step at a time in 90-day increments. So everything I recommend is always in 90-day blocks, taking one step further, peeling back that onion of that limiting belief, just a baby step for that next 90 days, and then measure. And then you continue to refine, improve, and then you peel back one more layer and one more layer. So it's very small and bite sized and not overwhelming, because the big decisions can be scary and overwhelming. It means change, which is uncertain, and that can stop people in their tracks. But small 90-day beta tests that then build your confidence and your ability to open your mind to see the possibilities, that's when the real magic can happen.
So good. Some things I really want everyone to hear is the incredible value of seeing those limiting beliefs, understanding, because when limiting beliefs are working under the radar, they're super powerful. But when they are identified and laid out like that deck of cards in front of you, then you can make choice about them. You can see them for what they are. And the other piece that you brought up about like when we're operating on should doesn't keep the engine full of
That's
fuel.
right.
And being an entrepreneur is a heavy lift. I mean, it takes a lot of energy and drive and determination. Maybe one of those limiting beliefs is that I have to do everything alone. So, as Kasey is saying, maybe you don't have to do everything alone. Not everything is your genius work. Who can you
That's right.
partner with that brings a different skill set that might just put some of that fuel into that tank? Or if you're shooting on yourself about something, maybe there's something else that is the thing that lights you up, but you've just never really allowed yourself to think about it. But if you don't get challenged and lay out your cards, you're not
That's
going
it.
to know. Just love that.
That's it. You have to lay the cards and then you have to make some hard decisions. The cards are there. You can see them. You see what those limiting beliefs are. You now have the choice. You have the choice to be resourceful to overcome that limiting belief, or you have the choice to accept that that's the belief you want to own and carry with you as your burden. And I always say there's 2 to 3 choices in anything that is going on in your life. The secret is to be able to recognize them. Once you can recognize that you have choice A, B, and C, now the ball is in your court. You decide.
Right.
Do you want to own this limiting belief? Do you want to be resourceful to work around this limiting belief so that you can have more time, more money, find more fulfillment, have more impact, whatever it is that you want in your life? It's just a matter of being resourceful to overcome that. You can look at so many people before you that have overcome the challenges, and in most cases with significantly more challenges that you have and have reached higher heights. And so the possibility is always there should you choose it.
Love it. And I love the idea of the 90-day sort of experiment, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
90
we
days.
set a path for 90 days, we learn in that 90 days, and then we course correct, right?
That's it. That's it. Then you course correct, you refine, you test it, you do it again, you learn. And it's not a failure, it's a learning. So you're constantly just learning. It's a 90-day beta test. You're like, I'm going to test this one thing. This one thing is going to get all my attention for this next 90 days. And I'm going to see and measure some core benchmarks, some core of those KPIs, key performance indicators, just a couple, and see what progress I can make. And sometimes it's as simple as having conversations. Sometimes I will work with a client and the challenge for the next 90 days might be, are we having 3 conversations a week with X type of person that is different than we've had before, depending on what their goals are? And so sometimes that's what we're doing for 90 days is we are doubling or tripling the amount of conversations that we're having, because we know that conversations equal opportunities. And so oftentimes, I wouldn't even say sometimes, oftentimes that is the challenge is who are we talking to and how much volume of conversation are we having in a certain area over a certain time? Because if we have enough conversations, change will happen. The right person will come in that will then completely change, whether it's a partner, whether it is new clients, whether it is, thought leadership opportunities, whatever it might be. If you are having those conversations, the opportunities will come.
Oh, I love that because that's often like when we're uncertain or maybe moving into something that's new for us. I say to my clients all the time, you can't put a basket over yourself and expect you can't be a secret and
Right.
be a success at the same time. It's just
Yeah.
not an option.
Right.
So
Right.
the concept of let's have more conversations, whether it's more conversations with prospects or
Yep.
alignment partners or whatever
Yep.
that is,
Yep.
would you be willing to kind of dive into what are some of the objections you hear about that? And how do you help your clients get over those objections?
So, okay, there's so many objections. The first one, people will say, I can figure it out myself. Well, you probably can figure it out, but do you have the bandwidth of time? And what are you taking time away from to figure it out, right? Compared to finding someone that can potentially help you. So that's number one is people try and do everything themselves. And the reality is we only have 24 hours in the day. We need help.
Mm.
And so that's number one. Number two is we don't have enough time. So either I'm not going to go, I have that pride ego. I can just do it all. I'll just do all the things. I'll do all the marketing. I'll do the client prospecting. I'll do the service delivery, all the things. No, that's just a one-way street to burnout. And so That don't do that. The second one is I don't have enough time. How am I going to have time to have more conversations than I have now? My schedule's already so full. Well, the reality is if you look at your schedule and you do an audit and you look at the things that are really building your business or building the quality of your life and you rate them on a 1 to 3, which are the things that are building your business, then those get a high rating, or building the quality of your life, those get a high rating. All the other things that are minutia things either get eliminated or they get carved off to somebody else, whether that's a virtual assistant or somebody that is affordable, that or you consolidate or you automate, whatever it might be on those
Mm.
things. So that's the answer to the time. And the third one is the money. I don't have money to hire people or to build my team, right? And the reality is at some point, you have to understand that in order to grow, you have to invest in yourself and your learning and in your team. And when you're investing in your team should make you more money. The team should never drain money. So changing your mindset to, I can't afford not to hire somebody because in order to grow, I need this person. I need this person to help with prospecting, or I need this person to help with thought leadership. Because to your point, you have to be known whether you're hosting a podcast like you are, or you're submitting articles for publication in industry journals, or you are speaking, or you are hosting a YouTube channel, whatever it might be, or even just your social media content. Who's
Mhm.
coordinating and facilitating some of these things for you so that you can focus on what you do best? And but all of these things should be leading to more clients and more growth. And so when you are making that hire, when you're thinking I can't afford to hire that person, make that hire, even if it's a freelance person, with very specific goals on how is this person going to grow my business? What is it that they're doing that is either generating leads or is supporting my existing client community so I have stronger retention, or they're specifically freeing up a portion of my time by doing administrative tasks. And I am intentionally going to spend that time block every week, whether it's 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever it is, on growth activities. Maybe it's partnerships, collaborations, things like that. So then when you're making that hire, it's not a matter of you can't afford it. It's you can't afford not to do
That
it.
too.
Yes. Yes.
Love it. So all of these sort of fit under that umbrella of self-leadership, correct? All the stories we're telling ourselves, the mind games we get into, the beliefs that either help move us forward or hold us back. What else about self-leadership? Because you said that's about 80%, didn't you
It
say?
really is. It is. It
Yeah.
really is. 80%. The other piece of the self-leadership is understanding that failure is part of the game and embracing it and understanding that every failure, every no, everything that doesn't work out is part of the process. Many of us have went through traditional education and it's a very linear path. And the path at entrepreneurship is not linear whatsoever. In fact, you learn much more from the failures and the no's than you do from the things that go well. And I think that's a very hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, especially
Yeah.
people that are a little bit type A and they want things to go perfect every time. That's just not how it works. And so once you can understand that failure, the bigger the failure and the bigger the no and the more uncomfortable the situation, the more successful you will be on the other side of it. And it takes a while to understand that. And it takes being around a community of people that are open to sharing. So you realize you are not the only one. I promise you are not.
Right.
When you talk to successful people, you will hear so many stories of failure. And I think that is another piece of the self leadership that's really, really, really important because so many people will want to give up or they'll want to crawl under a hole and they'll
Mhm.
be embarrassed and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I stink. And their confidence is destroyed. And the reality is, no, this is part of the process. This is how you learn. And once you can celebrate the failures just as much as you celebrate the wins, I had a mentor that used to smile. It was a physician when I was practicing dermatology. And every time there was big issue with the staff, there was so much drama and turmoil or something very important had an issue in the medical practice that is not good because we want to do our best for our patients. And he would be
Right.
so frustrated. And then he would look and he would just kind of paint the smile on. He would just kind of turn his face and paint the smile on his face and be like, but this is what owning a business is all about, right? Like, as frustrated as you are with that situation, it's like embracing crap is going to happen. And that's just part of the
Yeah.
game. And you learn from it. And guess what? You try not to make that mistake ever again. And you improve your processes and your systems and your team. and you never do that one again. And things just, the engine gets more refined and operates smoother, faster, bigger, better over time. And every mistake is your tool, is your stepping stone
Mhm.
to growth. And I think that is the other piece of the puzzle that's so important for self leadership to really understand.
Two things that you point out there in if we isolate and we just have our own chatter and our own, I think isolation is one of the big sand, what do you call it? Sinkhole, a big sinkhole of entrepreneurship. Because when we try to do everything ourselves, which is the other thing, try to do
Yeah.
everything ourselves and then stay in isolation, I think that self-talk and the gremlins grow because we don't have anything to sort of use as a measuring stick against it, or anybody to normalize, or anybody to say, gosh, I've been there too. So
Yes.
challenging all of you who are listening, if you find that you're really in isolation and you're trying to do everything yourself and you're the only one you're talking to about your successes and failures, I think you're missing a huge opportunity. Become a part of a community, whether your ICF community, community of other coaches, the star coach community, some community to
Yeah.
help support you. Work with a coach who maybe does groups or something so that you're not your only judge, jury, and sentencing committee.
Yes, 1,000%. 1,000%. I have a framework called the three who's I like to talk about. That's a great complement to what you're saying because, people say who, not how. And I'm a firm believer of that. We're talking about having conversations, right? But I love this concept and it's so perfect antidote to exactly what you're talking about. Three who's is who are your mentors and your coaches? Who are the people that have been there before you that have some knowledge, and this might be people in your industry or it could be people in life. And so you probably want to have three or four people in this top level of who's, and top level meaning that they have some experience more than you have, whether it's business related or personal life related, or they're just further along in their journey and their success journey. Their mindset is different, right? So who are the people you're learning from there? Then your next level of who's is your peers. These are your peers, the people you're collaborating with, people you're in groups with, like you're talking about. And who are you attending events with? And you are cross promoting and you're sharing all these things. You're all in it together. What three groups of people are you part of that are all a little different? They all have a little different personality and a little different kind of nuance to the way they operate. But everybody can collaborate and grow together at similar stages professionally and or personally. And then who are your team that work with you? Who are the team that are bringing a skill set to the table, that are part of your team, that either work for you or freelance work for you, or you are outsourcing to in some capacity. And so once you balance out your three level of who's and you have a variety of people at each level, you're no longer alone. You're insulated from almost anything in your journey. No matter what happens, there will be somebody in one of those three levels. Now, the challenge becomes which of the three levels do you lean on at which times? Do you go to your mentors, your peers, right, or your team? And some people get confused about when to reach out to each type of person. But sometimes it's kind of a cross reference. Sometimes you're having a conversation with
Right.
all of the levels and then you're making your own judgment. And I think that's a great way to go as well.
Right. Love that. I think that's probably a good segue to talk just a little bit about team leadership and what do we need to be thinking about when we move from, or not that we're like stopping self leadership, moving into team. No, it's all kind of going on at the same time. But what do we want to think about in the way of team leadership?
Yeah, team leadership is, I think, something that a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their heads around. So when you're leading the team, it could be your own team in your professional journey. It could be your team in your household, right? How are you leading? How are you communicating? Number one, that's typically where I go first is what are the communication methods that you have and what are the expectations on both sides? What are you doing to support your team? And what are you expecting back in return for deliverables, for deadlines? How are you measuring success? That's a big one that a lot of people don't pay attention to. And, especially in the professional world, you hire somebody and they're executing the task, but how are you measuring success of that task? What metric are you looking at? Something they're doing or something company wide? The efforts from that is actually growing something. And if we're not seeing something after some movement in a metric after 90 days, it's time to have a conversation about, okay, we're putting energy and effort in. So we recognize that. So we want to thank and be grateful for the energy and effort. But the reality is we're just not seeing growth in the way that we need to see growth in order to support this role. And so I think that's an area that a lot of people will neglect the communication. They won't want to have the hard conversation with their team about that and setting those expectations on the deliverables and how we're measuring success as a whole company as a result of all of our efforts so that we're not bringing a team on and we're in the same place 6 months or a year from now than we are today. And so team leadership, it, to me, is all about communication. It's about setting the example and it's about being very clear on the expectations, celebrating the wins, even if they're small wins, celebrating energy and effort, even if things aren't a win, but being very intentional to fix it so that we are setting ourselves up for success on the next time. And then after that next time, if we're still not seeing progress, then it might be time to make some changes. And so the communication, I think, is key. That leading a team is different than being friends with people, is different than being family members. We still have some accountability there. And we don't want to be afraid to have those conversations, but we want to be fair, have the conversations, brainstorm together, reset some new goals and timelines, and then let's fire away.
Love that.
Yeah.
And then we've got the industry. So when we think about our industry and leadership within the industry, what comes up for you, Kasey?
Yeah. Industry leadership is so interesting, right? Because if we aren't known in our industry, then we can't grow as an entrepreneur. And so when you think about industry leadership, I think you have to think about what feels natural for you when it comes to visibility. How do you want to become known? So, I have two coaching and consulting businesses. One has been around since 2009 for medical providers. The other one is my personal brand. It's a little bit newer. It's about 3 years old. And for me, my natural place that I like to go when it comes to visibility, I'm very comfortable public speaker. So I speak a lot in the industries where I am developing an area of expertise. That's comfortable for me, but that's not comfortable for a lot of people. I get that 100%. So if you're not comfortable public speaking, think about, are you comfortable writing? Could you write articles as a thought leader in your industry? Or maybe you're really creative and you're comfortable with social media. Could you develop your social media platforms and grow a bigger, community on your social platforms, whether it's a Facebook group or all your socials together? Maybe you are very comfortable as a host, like you are for podcasts or YouTube, right? So there's so many different places, different channels, I should say, to become a
Mhm.
thought leader in your industry. Pick the one that feels most natural and comfortable for you and make sure that you are holding yourself accountable to do that effort on a regular basis, whether it's once a week, whether it's a podcast or YouTube channel, whether it's once a month, if you're public speaking or you're submitting articles, right? Things like that. If you're doing social, it's going to be more of a daily thing, right? So what is it for you? How will you get known? Choose the path that feels right for you. I'm throwing out some of the most obvious channels. There's many more, but these are some of the big ones. So in order to lead in your industry, you have to become visible in some way. You do not have to do all of the things perfectly. Pick the one that is your superpower, do that one perfectly. The others can complement. The others can be there. If you're a comfortable writer, write, your social can complement. Same with speaking. If you're comfortable on social, do a lot of that. And if you get asked to speak here and there and you feel like you're not the strongest speaker, don't sweat it because you're super strong on social. Just understand, pick one, be very, very good at that one. And the other ones can be supportive, but you have to pick at least one that is the one where you're really good and you can become visible in that way. If we don't choose any, nobody knows who we are and the opportunity that you can bring to the world and how you can impact so many people. So pick the lane that feels right for you and be very consistent with it and show up, right? And own that one lane and the others can complement. Don't put pressure on yourself that you have to be visible in all the ways because until we get to a certain stage and we've got a bigger team to support us on the production side of things, that's very challenging in the early days to nail it in visibility in all those channels. Pick the one that feels most comfortable for you.
I love that. And the word that came through is that it's not necessarily about perfection, but it's certainly about consistency. And the more you are consistent, the more comfortable you're going to feel, the more perfect you're going to feel in consistently doing something, and people will know where to find you. And when they begin to see you and see you and see you again, then when they're like, oh, somebody is talking to me about needing a relationship coach. Oh, I see this person's
Yes.
post all the time, or I
Yes.
heard this person talk on
Yes.
this. You become known in the industry for that thing. But wishful marketing isn't going to happen. You can't, I mean, sorry, ladies and gentlemen,
That's
you
right.
can't just wish it to be true. You've got to do it. And consistency, I mean, this show is hitting year number 9 in a couple months. And that is a weekly show every week for the past 9 years, except for my holiday. I do take 2 weeks at the end of the year, but and they all been perfect shows? Heavens, no, they haven't all been perfect shows. But every single show is put out with the intention to bring value, to give some strategy, tool, or resource, and because this audience is my heart. But consistency is key, right, Kasey? I mean, it's just like you've
Consistency.
just got to keep showing up.
Absolutely, Maggie. That is awesome that you are on year 9. That is a kudos to you. I mean, that just shows your perseverance and your consistency and building your brand. Hosting a podcast and a YouTube channel is no small feat. And so to be consistent with a weekly show is awesome at year 9. That is quite impressive and just awesome role model for your community or anybody because that is great and it builds your reputation. People know where to find you, the quality of your content, they know what you're about, what you stand for, and they know, like, and trust you. And that's what visibility is all about. And so kudos to you. And hopefully your listeners are inspired by you and getting out there and being more visible because you're right. You can't just stay, hiding. Your business will never grow that way. You can partner with someone if you're so introverted that you cannot bring yourself to even write, blog, or any of those things, then partner with somebody that is very comfortable in one of those areas of visibility.
And I think the point being, I wasn't necessarily trying to toot my own horn as much as say it was a heavy lift. Sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, I've got to do this, even though I have laryngitis or I'm not feeling well or whatever. It's the key thing is just pick something and understand that it's not just because you pick your one thing doesn't mean it's never going to be a heavy lift. However, the more you do it, the less of a heavy lift it is, I guess.
100%. 100%. Is the consistency makes it easier. Just like public speaking for me, I speak at events a lot.
Right.
Those first times you walk up on the stage, you're having a heart attack, you want to vomit on the floor, all the things. Now I go up there like it's nothing and it's not a big deal, right? And so it just that consistency is key, and that over time you perfect your craft. And are they all perfect?
Right.
No. Are there still sometimes I get nervous? Yes. Still, sometimes I walk off and I'm like, dang it, I forgot that one key point that I so wanted to tell and share with everybody.
Right.
And so those things still happen, but you refine and you just get better and better and better over time. And that visibility, pick that lane. And lots of people are very successful blogging or publishing books,
Right.
submitting articles. If camera work is not for you or speaking to groups, right, become an expert and in some way get yourself and your voice into the universe so people know you and know your expertise and know that they can come to you for help and guidance. And that's what I think is most important. People think that it has to be, social media or it has to be a certain way. It really doesn't. It just has to be a way, your way,
Right.
the way that feels right for you, and consistently be out there. And whatever feels right for you, do it and do it regularly, and people will start to recognize you for your area of expertise.
Love it. And all these things come together then to help us build that empire that allows us to get our work into the world, work with the people who light us up, make the change that we believe in. All these, but it's an alignment. It's an alignment of what are you doing for your self leadership, for your team leadership, and to show that you're a leader in your industry. Kasey, as we begin to wrap up our time together today, what do you want? Like if I challenged you to say, what do you want people to just walk away with? If they're only walking away with one thing, what would that be?
Um, I always say if it's one thing to walk away with is you do not have to be alone. You do not have to be alone in your journey, your professional journey, in your decision-making process, in any of it. You do not have to feel alone. If you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling burnt out or you're feeling you're at a crossroads and you don't even know what to do anymore, what is what, or any of it, don't try to navigate these things by yourself, and try to be very intentional with those three levels of who's. Really compartmentalize the skill sets and the people that you're talking to for that guidance. You're getting the right kind of support to make the right decision for you. And you don't have to do it by yourself.
Wow. And I think that the key thing that really resonated with me from our talk is to give yourself credit that you are an individual. So it's not about comparing, well, if Meg's doing a podcast, I have to do a podcast. If Kasey's a speaker, I have to be a speaker. It's like yourself, it starts with your self leadership and understanding what is the thing that I could do and really commit to doing consistently that doesn't feel like I'm getting like a transplant or, something that really I can own, and that it might be a stretch. It probably will be a stretch, but it's not I have to become a different human being to do it.
That's it. That's it. That's the self leadership right there. You just hit it in a nutshell, Meg, perfectly, because it's all about making that decision. What decision is right for you to make the change that's right for you? And forget the outside influence in the outside world, even though you have your three who's that are guiding you,
Mhm.
but it's really you and finding your path and making the decision for you, and embracing the change that's right for you.
So good. So we are going to have links to connect with Kasey in the show notes, or if you're watching us on YouTube, it's going to be right below this video. Kasey, what an incredible joy to spend time with you this morning to talk about this alignment that, I guess the thing that pops into my brain, this alignment that deserves our time and energy. And I think gets kind of pushed off like, oh, I'm busy and I'm doing this for this person and this for this person. This is your empire. This is your world and your life and the impact you want to bring. So doesn't it deserve your time and energy to create the alignment that's right for you?
Yes, that's it. It really does. Every 90 days, I recommend taking a little time off, a little staycation, whether it is a day in exploring a new park, whether it is a spa day, whatever it is for you, and reflect on your Polaris Point, that North Star that you want in like 3 years from now is when I recommend the Polaris Point to be set. And are you on track? Are you spending your time? Do a little time audit, a little team audit every 90 days. Take a reset where you can disconnect and you're thinking only about you, your energy, your time, and are you on track for that Polaris Point? Every 90 days, reassess, take a step back and really look at everything. Are you feeling energized? Are the metrics looking good? The numbers looking good? The revenue, your time, your team? What changes do you need to make? What micro changes every 90 days? Reset, recalibrate, dial those, turn those dials so that your energy stays high. You feel good about what you're doing. You're following your true purpose, and you're recognizing that it's fulfillment in the journey, not fulfillment in the end goal. And that's the name of the game. When you're assessing it every 90 days, you can be very intentional about, am I having fun? I know things are going to be going wrong, but I'm embracing that and it's part of the process. And yes, I'm still doing what I feel called to be doing.
So good. That's a perfect place to wrap up today. Like I said, I want you to follow Kasey and keep in touch with the work that she's doing. So the links are in the show notes in the right below this video. Kasey, if you were to give one best place for people to connect with you, what would you offer?
Oh my gosh. I'm on, you said one, but I'm going to give you two platforms, Instagram and LinkedIn at Kasey D'Amato on both. Either one you're on, I am there. Shoot me a DM anytime. I've got lots of free tools. I've got a new decision threshold tool coming out to make major decisions in your business and life. I would love to share that with your community. Obviously, it's free to make any major decisions to help you get to that next level. But I love talking shop. Feel free to shoot me that DM at LinkedIn, Instagram at Kasey D'Amato.
Love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up this incredible episode of the Star Coach Show, I just want to remind all of you that we are here on this earth together for a reason. We are more alike than we are different. If we choose to look at our differences only, that gap widens. If we choose to look at what our purpose is and how each person has a purpose, and maybe if we got curious about what that purpose was, we would feel more aligned with one another and do the heavy lifting together. I really challenge you to think about that. If what we do here at the Star Coach Show is something you enjoy, subscribe wherever you're listening. We would love to continue to let you know when new things come out and enjoy our purpose here on the earth with you. So until next week, be kind to yourself, be kind to one another. Thanks for being a Star Coach listener. Thank you, Kasey, for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me, Meg.
And we'll see you next. Bye-bye.